Stella became white, and Desiree married the darkest man she could find. Let's do this. Hello everyone, welcome to today's Bookish video. My name is Jemima if you're new here, and this is Bookish 10. We have officially reached a series point for me anyway. When I reach like 10 of something, I'm like, okay, this is gonna stick and it's gonna be here. This current Bookish video is very late. I finished writing it a couple months ago. I just haven't had the time to sit down and chat. If I'm honest, these topics are quite heavy, so I've been running away from it. So I'm just gonna dive right in. Today I want to share with you guys two books. The books are Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell and The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. I chose these two books specifically because they were about twins and how one left the other. In The Vanishing Half, one of the sisters abandons the family and even goes as far to change her ethnicity from black to white, while in Hamnet, one of the twins fall ill and then the other one suddenly dies. This unexpected loss produces inconsolable grief. From these two books, I have 5 main points I want to share with you guys. If I'm honest, some of these points are quite uncomfortable and painful. I am going to give a trigger warning just in case. In Hamnet, there's a bit about depression and death, so if that makes you feel uncomfortable, be aware when reading this. While in The Vanishing Half, there is some quite violent scenes that are described and a bit about death as well. And also today in this Bookish video, I am going to talk about that, so you can use the timestamps to help you skip the parts about death and depression. Alright, so my first point is the con of forcing your best life. I find myself wondering sometimes, what am I willing to do to get my dream life? How much control do I want in the direction I walk in? And who am I willing to manipulate to get my way? All have sinned, all have fallen short. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I've only ever thought about good, positive, narrow ways to get things done. Trust me, I have come up with some crazy plans and schemes. However, I don't act on all of them. Mind your business, but I have acted on a few. And one thing that I've learned from my attempts is that manipulating is exhausting. You get tied in a web of lies, and sometimes the consequences are real. The Vanishing Half and Hamnet are good examples that when you're chasing after better, happier, more, be very careful. It is so easy to lose yourself and be blindsided by something that you did not expect. If you think it is possible to plan exactly in detail how you think something's going to go, and that it is going to go exactly as how you've planned, the way you had imagined it, you are in for a surprise. In The Vanishing Half, twin sisters Desiree and Stella run away from their southern hometown. They arrive in New Orleans and start making plans to live a new life. However, shortly after, Stella suddenly abandons Desiree. No warning or preparation time. One day she's here, the next she's gone. The only information that is certain is that Stella has stopped being black. I'm going to give you a little context for now, but I will dive a bit more into this in point 4 when I talk about colorism and racism. The thing to note is that Stella and Desiree have a very light skin tone, and they have come from a town where other light skinned people like to mix with other light skinned people and make even lighter skinned babies. I will come back to that in point 4. However, the main thing to note is that Stella has decided to white pass, and Stella has done this in order to have a better life for herself. After realizing that being white gave her more privileges, she believed that abandoning her past and family will bring her a happier life. Stella believed she had the right to choose, but this decision that she felt was harmless actually prevented her from truly making intimate connections. Yes, she succeeds in marrying a white man, having a daughter, and living in a beautiful home. Yet she lies to her husband and child every day about her past, and she's constantly living in fear that one day her neighbors will find out who she really is. From this, I take away that just because you can choose to do something, it doesn't mean that you should. Especially when it involves constantly lying, manipulating, and pretending to be someone else. And at the end of the day, is it worth it if you're suffering from loneliness and the mistrust that comes from living a life of lies? While in Hamnet, Agnes, the mother of the twins, does not make such a controversial decision, but she's obsessed with control. She has a gift that allows her to see glimpses of the future. It doesn't give her clear visions, just a little bit of a sense of what the future holds. And so because of this, she gets comfortable with predicting and planning. Agnes saw that when she dies, she will have 2 children by her side. And so when she has 3 children, she's thrown off balance. She now starts waging war with fate, believing she can save the child she thinks she's going to lose. Agnes focuses on Judith, the weaker twin, because Hamnet is strong and he will be fine. When it comes to interacting with people, Agnes is good at playing games to get what she wants. Her manipulation is subtle. In order to get her husband to move to London because she believed that was his next step for him to reach his great destiny, Agnes tells her brother to put an idea in her father-in-law's head, who then tells her husband to move to London. Agnes gets her way, but then she quickly regrets sending her husband to London, realizing that what she wanted more was his company than for him to be great, as now she's alone. And so once again, we see that manipulation ultimately leads to loneliness. And that's a big life lesson to take away. If you want to build true and genuine connections, keep that in mind. Moving on, my second point is really short. Stop saying boys act mean to girls they like. If you watched my previous Bookish video, This is a Man's World, you will know just how much I hate this statement. Boys are like that, the teacher laughed. They're meaner to the girls they like. Kim actually had a teacher say this to her after a series of bullying incidents. Boys are like that. They are meaner to girls they like. The teacher basically justifies his actions with the fact that he's in love. And he's doing this because she's not noticing him. He is trying to get her attention. The stress levels is really high at this point. And the fact that I literally saw it pop up again in another book, it meant I had to repeat it.
Lonnie flecked mud at her socks and threw her books in the trash, jostled her chair legs during the exam, yanked the ribbons in her hair, sang Tutti Frutti Dark Judy as soon as she was in earshot. On the last day of 5th grade, he tripped her down the school steps and she scraped her knee. At the kitchen table, her grandma pulled her legs onto her lap, gently swabbing the blood with a cotton ball. Maybe he likes you, Mama said. Little boys always act real mean to girls they like.
And I know that I will have to continue to repeat this because it's so important. You do not show love by being mean to someone. Simple. And this goes both ways. If a girl fancies a guy and she tries to be rude to him and act sassy to try to get his attention, and this also works for non-romantic relationships, just in general. You do not show love by being mean. That is all I have to say. And my third point is about depression, specifically just being aware of the subtle signs.
When she raises her head and sniffs the air, it is a damp, heavy, acrid scent, like food gone off or unaired linen. She has never smelt it before. If it had a colour, it would be greyish-green. Agnes is aware of him lifting a cup. He walks around them and slumps into a chair opposite. Agnes looks at him. She feels herself breathe in, then out. The sour, damp smell is back. It is stronger. It is right here before them. It drifts off him like smoke, collecting above his head in a grey-green cloud. He pulls it with him, this odour, as if he's enveloped in this mist. It seems to elude from his skin. Agnes examines her husband. He looks the same. Or does he? His face, under his beard, is shallow, parchment pale. His eyes seem hooded and have purplish shadows under them. He stares out the window and yet doesn't. He seems to not see anything before him. His other hand, resting on the table between them, is filled with empty air. He's like the picture of a man, canvas thin, with nothing behind it. He is like a person whose soul has been sucked out of him, or stolen away in the night.
When Agnes describes her husband's depression, she compares it to a bad smell. Yet this smell can so easily fade into the background without anyone noticing. Like during dinner, the other family members are not aware the Latin boy is not acting himself. However, the signs are there, from the sleeping too much, to feeling jaded about life, into weight loss. Mental health is something that people are getting more educated about in the recent years. However, it is something that can still get played down and not taken seriously. And access to help might be limited depending on where you are. And like I said, one of the biggest problems with depression is how easily it can be unnoticed, to the point that even the person themselves might not be aware that they are depressed. All right, so now I'm going to move on to my fourth point. And so here I'm going to bring more context back to the whole Stella white passing situation. But to do this, I'm going to have to give a massive spoiler. So if you are interested in reading this book and you can't handle spoilers, skip to point 5. But if you don't mind knowing something quite, revealing, it is a big spoiler, it's very big. But it did allow me to understand the situation more. So number 4, let's talk about colorism and racism. Stella and Desiree lived in a small southern town called Mullard around the 1950s. This town is fictional, of course, but small towns did exist. In the town they lived in, everyone was obsessed with being light-skinned. That was what the town's founder had in mind for this town. It was meant to be a place where light-skinned people mix with other light-skinned people and continue to produce more light-skinned babies and hopefully even lighter-skinned babies. However, although they saw themselves as light-skinned, the people in the surrounding towns, the neighboring towns, still considered them black because that is their ethnicity. And so because these white southerners still considered them black, it meant that they could lynch people. A white person can lynch a black person from the colored town Mullard. Racial terror lynching, the public killing of an individual who has not received any due process. This basically means that someone could be walking down the street and they can be assaulted to the point of death because a white person can claim that a crime was committed towards them and there's no court or no evidence that needs to be placed forward. Nothing of that sort goes on with lynching. It is not something that follows a legal system, but it was something that was done and people received no punishment from it, honestly, they went around lynching people, and the numbers was devastatingly high. Many colored people were accused of crimes that they did not commit. They looked at a white woman and they're being attacked for just looking at a white woman. And so in the story, the twins experienced watching their father get lynched at a very young age. They watched and hid inside their house, covering their mouth to prevent them from screaming, while their father was lynched by a group of white men in front of their home. Somehow, their father managed to survive this incident. However, while he was at hospital, the same group of white men came back to finish the job. The girls were not at the hospital to witness the second lynching. However, at their father's funeral, they were there, and where their father got lynched not once but twice. This was an unimaginable trauma for these girls, and they were not able to talk about it. They were not even able to talk about it with each other. Yet this was something that impacted Stella so much, and it haunted her even up until her adult life. Every night since her father was lynched, Stella has had nightmares that white men will break into her home and kill her too while she sleeps. So this information about her nightmares does not get revealed until much later in the book, close to the end. And so I felt this new understanding for Stella. At first, I thought it was just, she wanted certain privileges of a white person. But then I saw that she also wanted survival. The fact is, if you were a colored person, you could have been killed so easily. And I can see how vulnerable and scared she was. So yeah, I just felt a little bit more understanding towards her decision to white pass, if it was something of survival. Yeah, I still found it hard to swallow just how much into the character she was of being a white lady, and the way she really insulted black people and showed a genuine hate and anger towards black people as a white lady, even though her ethnicity is black, and even though she was just white passing. Yeah, she was just very much into the character that it really shocked me that she could go that far with some of the things she did. Going back to the town Mallard, like I said, they were obsessed with light skin, and they really could not handle dark-skinned people. The twins Stella and Desiree ran away from Mallard because it was suffocating. They wanted to live as differently as possible from what they knew growing up. Stella became white, and Desiree married the darkest man she could find. Desiree then had a dark-skinned daughter called Jude, who everyone was so surprised looked nothing like her. Unfortunately, this isn't a black love story couple goals because the man is an abuser, and it forces Desiree to return to her hometown Mallard with her dark-skinned daughter Jude. Though this was a decision of safety, it led to her daughter Jude growing up in a town that looked down and bullied her for her dark skin. Jude had people saying things like she shouldn't wear bright clothes. They called her really insulting names, and they said that Desiree could not be her mother because they looked nothing alike. Jude became very insecure, even to the point where she tried various lightning treatments and even avoided going out in direct sunlight. And she was even so lonely that she ended up spending time with this boy who did not want to be seen with her in public, but was happy to sneak around with her at nighttime. Racism and colorism is very still much present in the 21st century. And it's not even something to argue about, it's just a genuine fact that it still happens. And one area that it impacts the most is in work. The types of jobs someone has, the promotion opportunities they have, and the income can all be based on their race or how light their skin is. Stella first made the decision to white pass in New Orleans to be able to secure a job so she can look after her and Desiree. And after experiencing the privileges, she realized that she did not want to lose that and she could not go back to being black. While when Desiree moved back to Mallard, she struggled to find work in the neighboring towns because as soon as she put Mallard as her address, they knew that she was black. Though she was qualified for the role she was applying, they would dismiss her due to the simple fact of her being black. Because she kept getting refused for the job she was qualified for, ended up working as a waitress. And this is something that many black people and other people of color have experienced, not being able to get the job that they are qualified for simply because of the color of their skin and their ethnicity. And another thing to be aware of that is when people do employ people of color, sometimes they look at their skin tone and they prefer to get people on the lighter side than on the darker side for various reasons, such as a darker skinned person might intimidate them more and someone on the lighter skin side makes them feel a bit more comfortable. One field that shows colorism very obviously is the entertainment and media industry. The media still prefers to use people with lighter skin tones than with those with darker skin, and they will use that person with the light skin tone as a representation of the whole colored or black person. And their preference is always people with lighter skin tones because they believe it's more desirable to them. There is such a small pool of black representation with the same faces constantly being used, even to the point where roles for a dark-skinned character is being cast to a light-skinned person. Finally, let's end by going back to Hamnet and talking about the impact the twin who died had on his family. No spoilers here, I'm just going to reflect on the concept of death. So point number 5, death. Can a person feel death approaching? The Grim Reaper? Where do we go after we die? Why do we struggle so much with letting go? How do you grieve loss in a healthy way? Do you believe in ghosts? First of all, it is a fact that you're going to die. It is certain because it's a process of life. For me personally, I'm a Christian, and so I believe in heaven, and that's where we go after we die. I genuinely believe that there is a better place waiting for us after death. However, there is still such a heaviness that can come over those who are left behind. Losing someone you care about is heartbreaking, and that emotion can be so consuming. Hamnet is truly an amazing book. The fact that from the beginning you are aware that he's going to die. It says it in the blurb. There is no other plot twist. Hamnet is going to die. Yet when it happens, it still manages to crush your soul. The passage in the book where he's dying, it would be great to read that to you, but I think you should just experience that yourself. For me, it was so impactful because up until that point, we had been following the journey of Agnes and Latin Boy. And seeing the bigger picture of everything that led up to that point made the loss so unbearable. And this tragedy is remembered in the form of a play, Hamlet. From this book, something that I've remembered again is that sometimes dying is not peaceful. It can come raging and wrecking the whole place down. Like I said, I saw it in this book with those characters, and I've also seen this in real life. The people left behind can sometimes become worse off. Death takes the life of one person, and it can also steal joy and hope from those attached to that person. Some people are able to process death and heal eventually with time, but some remain stuck and deteriorate. Sometimes death can bring people together as they comfort one another. However, it can also reveal cracks that were hidden and cause people to distance themselves. The impact of death is not certain, even though dying is. And so with that, we've come to the end of this bookish video. Some of these topics were a lot, so if you made it to the end, thank you for sticking with me. I hope I've been able to do these books justice and show a little of just how important they are. There is so much within these books that you just have to read them for yourself. They talk about family, career, relationships, personality, sexuality, and politics. And they make you reflect on reality, privilege, and trauma. Another thing these two books had in common, apart from them being about twins, was just the way the story was told and how it flipped from both past and present so smoothly. They give little clues and nuggets for you to ponder that you don't really understand until the end of the book. Hamnet and The Vanishing Half were honestly really amazing books, and I recommend you grab yourself one that you feel a connection to. I have linked these two books down below. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of them, or if you have anything else to add to some of the points I mentioned. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring in the notification bell so you know when I post, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!